religion or belief, including the ability to worship in peace and security, is a fundamental human right. In Canada, we believe that diversity is one of our strengths. Diversity of religion, ethnicity, and language. This diversity is really at the heart of who we are as Canadians, and it influences how we approach the world. Partly for this reason, Canada's relationship with Bangladesh has been built on what we call shared values. Values such as democracy, pluralism, and respect for human rights. We see strong linkages between human rights, pluralism, and peace and security, pillars of strong democratic and prosperous development. As Canada's Prime Minister, Stephen Harper, has said, pluralism is the principle that binds our diverse peoples together. It is essential to our civil society and our economic strength. Most of the world's nations are, like Canada, composed of diverse ethnic, cultural, linguistic, and religious populations. Pluralism allows individuals to retain their cultural, linguistic, and religious heritage within a framework of shared citizenship. That's the end of his quote, but I think it's really important and it sets the stage for the conversation that you're having today. So Canada is a country of obviously many ethnicities and religions, but we all share one humanity, one of respect, one of acceptance, and one of peace and security. And history has shown us that when religious freedom is respected, then democratic freedom is also followed. We know that societies that protect religious freedom are more likely to protect all other universal rights and fundamental freedoms. We have long been building the conditions in which people live with the dignity that others crave, and that's built around our fundamental values of freedom, democracy, human rights, and rule of law. Unfortunately, restrictions on religious freedoms are on the rise. A new report by the Pew Forum indicates that restrictions on religion are rising in each of the 5 major regions of the world. And they found that over 1/3 of the world's population lives in countries where governments, social groups, or individuals restrict the ability of people to freely practice their faith. And this is something we cannot and do not condone. Canada is deeply concerned about the situation in various parts of the world where individuals, including Ahmadiyya, Baha'is, Chaldeans, Christians, Copts, Falun Gong practitioners, Hindus, Jews, Muslim Rohingyas, Sufis, and Zoroastrians, experience difficulty in their ability to worship and practice their faith. And we strongly condemn attacks on places of worship, whether at temples, synagogues, shrines, mosques, gurdwaras, or churches. And it is of the utmost importance that every individual is able to practice their faith in safety and security. So Canada overall is seeking to play its part in promoting human rights abroad. Freedom, democracy, human rights, and rule of law are core Canadian values that my government is proud to uphold and celebrate. And to do so, on February 18, 2013, Canada officially opened the Office of Religious Freedom. And its mandate is to protect and advocate on behalf of religious minorities under threat, to oppose religious hatred and promote tolerance. It also promotes Canadian values of pluralism and tolerance abroad. The Government of Canada has pledged to speak out and to protect and promote religious freedom around the world, and the Office of Religious Freedom helps us do that. Promotion of freedom of religion and belief ultimately supports, as I've said before, Canadian values that Bangladesh shares, including freedom, democracy, human rights, and rule of law. Canada's long-standing respect and defense of freedom of religion stands at the core of the fundamental rights and freedoms that we enjoy as citizens, and our experience in pluralism is grounded in our multicultural and multi-faith society. Canada has been speaking out and taking action against egregious violations of freedom of religion and denouncing violence against human rights defenders and attacks on places of worship around the world. Freedom of religion can be violated in many ways, through government restrictions that deny religious freedom to one or more communities, through social hostilities that target one or more religious communities, or through a sense of impunity that allows a majority to persecute a minority group. In terms of Bangladesh, as you all know, Bangladesh is often defined as a moderate or secular Muslim country in South Asia. And up until now, it's experienced strong economic growth, and it has the potential to become one of the world's largest economies. However, we feel that that potential growth is being threatened. On a personal note, we just celebrated International Women's Day, and we've had a series of events over the last 10 years. And I would note that there are still major challenges to women's full participation in society and equality. And over the past few days, issues such as domestic violence, early childhood forced marriage, access to education and economic rights were highlighted. And women's rights are one of the parts of human rights that are often affected by cultural and religious norms. For centuries, Bangladesh and Bengal has been home to the followers of many different religions. This has bred a level of understanding between religious groups, but it has also meant that those who are intolerant do not need to look far to find someone or some group to persecute. And everywhere I go in Bangladesh, I am told about Bangladesh's long history of communal tolerance and interfaith harmony. At the same time, the statistics on persecution of religious minorities and a number of recent incidents remind us that much work remains to be done. At the time of independence, Hindus were 22% of the population. Now they're 8.5%. Over the last year, there were a number of attacks on religious minorities in the lead up to the elections. And I'll have some stats, I'm sure you're aware of them, but I think it's worth repeating. In 2013, according to ASK, 278 houses and shops were vandalized and burnt down, 208 business enterprises were attacked and looted, 495 temples and idols were attacked, 188 people were injured and 1 died. According to Otakar, from January 2013 to August 2013, 352 temples and idols were attacked, 315 businesses were attacked, and 76 were injured in different incidents. This is compared to 2008, where according to Otakar, 1 died, 90 were injured, 2 houses and 24 temples were attacked, and 6 others were looted. So there's a clear increase in terms of violence against religious minorities. And probably the most infamous attack was the burning of the Buddhist temple in Ramu. I've spoken to representatives of religious minorities here in Dhaka and in their homes. They are afraid of their security, and some no longer want to stay in Bangladesh. They all told me that none of their attackers had been punished, and the sense of impunity that exists means that the Hindu community in particular is at greater risk. And it is my sense that Bangladesh's cultural fabric will be lessened if minorities flee. As many will tell you, violence is not for purely communal reasons. Politics is often the proximate cause. But the fact remains that every time there's an election, vulnerable individuals, including women, children, ethnic and religious minorities, suffer disproportionately. So as I see it, this means that Bangladesh has 2 large challenges in addressing interfaith relations. The first is to strengthen the relations and mutual understanding between different faith communities. And the second is to bring about a shift in the culture of politics and governance towards a new political culture that embraces diversity, accepts peaceful dissent, rejects violence, and accepts the right of all individuals to vote as they wish. Religious individuals must be at the forefront of addressing these challenges. The vast majority of Bangladeshis are religious, and without people of faith, no change is possible. But religion can bring many different influences to politics. On the one hand, religion can motivate people to be more caring and compassionate and humble. On the other hand, the very nature of most religions is that they are a group that believes some essential things to be true that others do not believe. Almost every religion is therefore to some extent exclusionary. The question every country faces at some point is how to build a nation and a society that recognizes and respects the powerful imperatives of religious belief while creating a space where those with different beliefs can coexist harmoniously. Most Western countries have tackled these challenges by adopting some version of secularism, In Canada, as a country of immigrants with many cultural heritages and religions, we have adopted a very inclusive version of secularism. People of all faiths are welcome in all aspects of society, including, of course, in government. They are free to be open about their faiths and their beliefs, often influence of how they approach their work. At the same time, we have a common recognition that each person should be allowed to make their own decisions about their faith and to live their life in accordance with those decisions. And at my lunch table today, somebody was asking me about the laws, and we have something that's called the Charter of Human Rights. And if you want more information about it, you should ask Daniel. He's sitting right there, and he's actually a lawyer, and he can give you much more information than I can. But this is the fundamental premise in Canada, that everybody has the right to practice their religion and their faith, and you may not be discriminated upon the basis of religion, upon the basis of sex, upon the basis of ethnicity, or on the basis of sexual orientation. So, I mean, for us, this was a major piece of legislation that was adopted and really supersedes most everything else. So for the reasons that I've described above, Canada is uniquely placed to protect and promote religious freedom worldwide. Ours, as I've said, is a pluralistic country of many cultural heritages and religions, but Canadians and people around the world share a common humanity. And so as such, it is our common duty to defend the rights of the afflicted and give voice to the voiceless. So Canada, with its partners, will continue to fight for religious tolerance and pluralism, including speaking out against egregious acts or violations of religion, denouncing violence against human rights defenders, and condemning attacks on worshippers and places of worship around the world. And you may or may not be aware, but over the last year, we've issued a number of press statements. Myself as the High Commissioner, our Foreign Minister, Minister Baird, and also our Ambassador for Religious Freedom, when there were quite terrible attacks against the religious communities were happening, and those are all on the website if you're interested. So I look forward to hearing your views on how Bangladesh can promote peace and tolerance throughout the country. I hope you have enjoyed this morning's discussion, and I'm sure you will continue to enjoy this afternoon's discussion. For us, it is a very important topic, and I look forward to hearing the highlights of it. So thank you very much.